All right, everyone. It is North London Derby week, and I'm very optimistic. All of us, I think, are going into North London Derby week. Welcome to the latest edition of the Daily Gooner Pod here on YouTube, Twitter, and everywhere else where you get your social media. As usual, joining you from the United States, I'm Raphael. My London duo today, and we have two. Ryan, welcome back, sir.
Hello, mate. Thank you for having me again.
Always, always. And of course, Sam. Welcome back, Sam.
Hello, mate. Hope you're well.
I am. A lot of good Arsenal news. When we left the last time, we said we hoped there would be. And sure enough, two starts in the Prem, two results. Let's begin. We can talk about Burnley, but when we last connected with people, we were talking about the fact that the window had closed and Mikel Arteta, Sam, had what we might call the Arteta 11. We predicted that, Aaron Ramsdale might go in. We knew Tomiyasu was coming in. We knew that there were a lot of players who we penciled in as in the ideal 11. There should be 11. He's pretty much played that 11, and now we've seen them produce two clean sheets. Early assessment of the quote unquote Arteta 11.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's ultimately connections need to be formed, and I believe Arteta was talking today about the connections on the pitch and that he can see them forming. It's not been easy in some aspects, but you can see things gelling together, which ultimately is a good thing. I think if it depends how you want to look at it, really. If you want to look at it as this should be an Arsenal team thumping teams 4, 5, 6, then I'm sorry, but football's not for you in that respect. But with the team and the first 11 that's gone out in both games, then you can understand there's been some teething problems in terms of the final ball. We could have scored a couple more goals. It's just down to players getting in the right position, getting the right touches in. But again, it's early season, so we'll see how it progresses. But signs are promising so far.
All right, and sticking with that, Ryan, when we talked about the window when we were last here on deadline day, and Tomiyasu had been brought in, he was the one big deadline day acquisition. Ramsdale had been cut. Aaron Ramsdale come in a couple of days earlier. We thought, okay, now Mikel Arteta has his back five. We didn't know if he was going to play them or not. He did. Leno sat down. Ramsdale went in. Tomiyasu, we thought, okay, he was having work permit problems. That was sorted. He goes straight into the lineup. And that seems to be, something we've talked about for a long time. Mikel Arteta was trying to build from the back forward. And sure enough, what we've seen, I mean, the most encouraging thing to take from these two wins is two clean sheets.
Yeah, and I was saying in our group chat the other day, it's the first time we've gone to Burnley and I've not been worried about conceding. And that's strange. For us guys at Burnley, usually we get bullied, we get pushed around, we get manhandled, but I didn't sense that this time. I sensed that their two big boys up front didn't really get a look in. Gabriel was monstrous. Ben White was calm, composed, silky on the ball. Obviously he made a couple of mistakes, but we can put that down to the pitch. And Tomiyasu was just an absolute animal. I think he won 100% of his aerial duels against Burnley, which in his second Premier League game, that's an eye-opener for me. And I think our back four now is probably the best we've had in a long, long time. I'm talking about going back to Sanyo, Mertesacker, Koscielny and Monreal days. 5, 6, 7 years defences. I think this is probably the best we've had in a long time.
All right, Sam, I want to give you a second bite at that apple, because, I mean, when I was watching Tomiyasu against Burnley, what stood out to me was Burnley obviously wanted to bring balls up the side, bring them, lob them in, crosses into the box. They couldn't get anything over his head. It seemed like everything they tried from that side was he kicked it back, gave him a throw in, occasionally he gave him a corner, but it's like, that's the game you want to play. You're not going to do it on my side.
Yeah, with Tomiyasu, he was very smart in the positions that he picks up, because ultimately he didn't get sucked into the play, so they're able to put the ball over his head. He held position, held the line, and ultimately stifled Burnley from where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. Now, this could have been an instruction by Arteta because he knows he's now got a fullback that will be able to carry out his instructions essentially. So if that is the case, fair play. If it's a case of Tomiyasu just doing it on himself by himself, even better. Yeah, for me, absolutely outstanding game for him, and also on the cover with Gabriel when Barnes was through, absolutely fantastic. And it also helps having defenders. The majority of our defenders are over 6'2" now.
Mhm. Ryan, I still don't want to leave this because we've talked about the benefits on the backside with a player like Tomiyasu. But, when he came in, when we discussed him on deadline day, we thought, here's a guy who can tuck in on the right side, let other people go forward. Arsenal like to send Tierney up the left. I'm noticing he's not being any less coy going up the right. He's working very closely with Odegaard. He's working with Pepe, but he's not being shy about going up the pitch. Arsenal suddenly, very quickly, now they got to work on the end product. We'll talk about that in a moment, but they suddenly really seem to have balance. There is a right-sided attack now.
Yeah, and I think Tomiyasu actually moves into the middle. Like, he's not gonna fly up and help Pepe. I think he's gonna move into the middle and let Odegaard go out wide and help Pepe, rather than have a fullback who, let's say, we'd rather have Odegaard and Pepe in that position than our right back. So he gives us balance by Tierney flies up, he'll sit back a little bit and sweep up on that side. He'll make like a midfield 3 or a midfield 2, back 3, whatever it is. He comes across and does that. And in the formation we played on Saturday, which I think is our probably strongest formation, strongest 11 as well. We played a 4-3-3 with 2 attacking number 8s. So Tomiyasu basically came in as another central midfielder and helped out in the middle of the pitch. And he was brilliant. And as you say, it gives us so much more balance. It gives us so much fluidity in our formations, in our attacking formations as well. So Michael Arteta's talent identification is incredible.
All right, Sam, I'm going to stay on the back because, again, we need to give some attention to Aaron Ramsdale. And I think the contrast between the season opener at Brentford and this past weekend at Burnley was obvious. We saw them getting bullied in the box. There's that second goal where, the Brentford player put his arms around Leno and just kind of held him captive there while the ball was able to ping pong in, and they were able to nip that second one. Very different style keeper now. Bigger and just more aggressive and far more dominant at just maintaining that this is my space.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. Aaron Ramsdale is more dominant than Bernd Leno. It's a matter of fact. And with Ramsdale, he's used to the rough and tumble. He's done it in the Championship. He's done it in the Premiership. He's not somebody that's going to be intimidated by the opposition strikers coming in. I noted that Burnley tried to put a couple on him. He was unfazed. He came and claimed everything. I think if we had Leno in goal for the Burnley game, I think we probably would have lost that game. But Ramsdale literally bailed us out on a couple of occasions by coming and claiming and not being afraid to put his body on the line to do so as well. Also, his distribution was superb. It enabled us to get on quick counterattacks. I genuinely feel now that he's not droppable. I don't see how Leno comes back into this team other than the odd nothing game. So
perhaps tomorrow.
It wouldn't surprise me if he comes in tomorrow. But on a personal note, I'd rather Arthur and Nkonkwo go in goal.
Mm-hmm.
So, if Arteta decides to go with him, then it's going to be a long way back for Leno. I don't see how he comes back personally.
Well, and a lot of speculation. I'm starting to see some speculation. We can't verify this, but I'm starting to see stories about sending Leno out in the January window, something to track a little bit more closely. Ryan, let's turn our attention forward. Um, they won at Burnley, obviously, and it came from something we just haven't been used to lately. A very superbly executed free kick from Martin Odegaard.
Yeah, and the argument all summer between him and Madison was, oh, Madison takes set pieces a lot better. Madison scores a lot more goals. Well, Odegaard has more goals than Madison this season so far. So, looks like Arteta was right on that one as well. So, I just unbelievable strike, boshed it top corner and loved it. Loved every minute of it. Finally scored a goal as our player, as a permanent fixture in his side, and you could see what it means to him when he was patting the badge, kissing the badge, and so forth. So, great goal.
Sam, we talked about that all through the window. Where is he coming on loan? Is there going to tolerate another loan? That this was a player who needed to feel at home, who needed to feel wanted, and as Ryan said, we really saw that in the weekend.
Yeah. Ultimately, we know that he's now acclimatized to the league somewhat. I think that there is still more to come in terms of that, but he will only get better and better. People will always point to his assist last season. Theoretically, he should have probably ended up on 10 due to the lackadaisical finishing, but with him in the side now, he completely knits this team together. So Martin Odegaard was always the right decision, and he was always a top priority for myself. And just because you can tell his talent from day dot, and so with him in the side, we instantly become a lot better. And I think he will pose teams a lot of issues, and I think that a lot of teams will try and adapt their game plan to try and nullify him. And if they do that, and you've got Smith Rowe as the another attacking eight, then it opens the pitch up. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays forward.
Well, you anticipated my next question, which is, they did have some difficulty finishing, but they also at the same time had a lot of success in the buildup. They created a lot of opportunities for themselves with that, as you said, with the two number eights, where you have, I think it was Smith Rowe on the right and Odegaard on the left, and also those two can interchange in that role, can they not?
Yeah, of course they can. They're both very able to play in the different areas of the pitch. I think in terms of the finishing, that will come. Is the metrics are there for the chance created, and I just think once it clicks with the attack with the striker, then somebody is going to be on the end of an absolute pasting. And personally, I don't think it's going to be Wimbledon tomorrow, but I think it could possibly be Spurs. Well, hopefully it's
I,
Spurs.
I'm all for that. Ryan, 4-3-3. That means Thomas Partey at the base, right? When he was first brought in, that was one of the roles that we anticipated that he would play. He didn't play the full match. He played close to the full match. I think it was 75 minutes or so. Your take on him as the hub of a midfield three?
Yeah, me and Sam, we've disagreed on this quite often. I think that's his best position. I think him starting everything, breaking everything up, getting on the ball as our deepest midfielder, I think that's his best position. And he showed it again on the weekend, just pinging passes into our forward players from deep. I was saying, our midfield last year with him injured just weren't getting the ball up front quick enough. So we weren't creating chances quick enough. Whereas you see on Saturday, he was pushing the ball forward, he was pinging it into Odegaard, into Smith Rowe, into Saka, and we was getting at their back four a lot quicker than what we did last year. And if it wasn't for our final pass, which was terrible most of the time, we would have had a lot more opportunities on goal. But for him playing in that position, I think that is his best position. And I think we're a lot stronger with as a 4-3-3 with what we played the weekend.
All right, and Sam. So we've talked about a lot of good, but let's talk about the disappointing. Again, 2 clean sheets, but Arsenal really struggling to put the ball in the net. Really, 1 goal, 5 matches from open play. They created more opportunities, but that final pass, that cohesion, still not quite there. Is this a matter of just more practice, more time? These guys need more time.
I don't think it's necessarily they need more time. I think, as I said earlier, I think the metrics are there for somebody to get an absolute pace in. It's just a case of it's early on in the season, players need to find their groove. And ultimately, if you look at the Burnley game, you could argue that Saka had two clear chances to be in a goal and potentially score. His touch let him down.
True.
But again, it's the fact is that it's early on in the season. Players are still trying to get back up to speed, and with the added pressure of what's been on the players' shoulders for the last couple of weeks, given the start of the season, it does add added pressure. So I think moving forward, I don't think goals will be an issue. It's just a case of if and when it happens.
All right, and let's talk about that forward attack, Ryan, because they had Saka, Pepe, and Aubameyang, and we haven't seen very much. We talk about whether it's. I think Saka's best side is on the right, but that's also Pepe's side, and there just seemed to be some uncertainty about who should play left. I personally, I think they play better when Pepe's on the left and Saka's on the right, but they've been playing the other way around, and occasionally they swap. Um, what tinkering could, or what combination do you see up front? And might you replace one of them? Say, bring a Martinelli in. What can get those guys to click a little bit better?
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like Saka on the left, and I don't like the combination of the three. I think that Saka, as you said, is much better on the right, cutting inside, creating that way. Whereas when he's on the left, he has to come into the inside pocket and play in between the left wing and the number 10. I don't think that suits him really. I think what Arteta wants is a combination of creativity on one wing and goal scoring on the other, which Pepe brings a goal scorer and Saka brings a creativity. But I would completely drop Pepe and play Martinelli on the left personally. So I think that brings more balance to the front three. And I've got to say, Pepe is so inconsistent with how he plays. Against Norwich, he was in and out of the game, but you could say he had a good game because he created the most chances and whatnot. But then on Saturday, he was just not there. He was getting him the ball, but his touch was off. His final pass was off. And I think if we're playing the player that on that side, it has to be Saka, because when he played on the right last season, he was consistently performing, consistently getting goals, consistently getting assists, consistently creating opportunities. So for me, I would drop Pepe as hard as it is because of how much he cost. But I think Saka plays better on the right, and I think Martinelli should get his chance on the left and provide that wide goal scoring option.
All right, two-parter, Sam. Do you agree with Saka on the right, possibly Pepe on the left or Martinelli on the left? And does that put us in the uncomfortable position, even though we're only 5 matches into the season, of talking about Nico Pepe's future here? I mean, it seems like people are saying, "Hey, let's give him more time. Let's give him more time." He's been here a while now, and I mean, it's in some ways he is kind of blocking Bukayo Saka on that side of the pitch.
Yeah, I do agree with Saka being the right-sided option, but for me, I think we play better when Smith Rowe's on the left wing. And ultimately, if Smith Rowe goes onto the left wing, for me, bring Sambi into the middle. I know that doesn't fit into the two floating eights, but it gives us a solid base of Partey being at that base, Sambi being the extra protection in that middle third, and always looking for that pass forward with Erdegaard floating across the line. Um, I think in regards to Nico Pepe, there's always going to be question marks over him because he's somebody, as Ryan said, is so inconsistent, and with the price tag that he had on his head, albeit not his fault, I think he's unfortunately a product of Ralstonelli's incompetence when he was at the club. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't see his time here being a positive one, although it should have been. It's just trying to find the right connections for him, but we're buying new players to try and suit him. We're trying different formations to suit him. How much do you try with a player if he's inconsistent and not performing to the level of what you expect?
It leads to the question, Ryan, is Nico Pepe somebody you might consider flipping for a younger winger, another forward, maybe not in the January window, but in the summer?
Yeah, I think so. I like Pepe. I think he can be a good player, but I don't think the type of player he is suits what Arteta wants from his wide players. Pepe thrived at Lille by playing on the counter attack and having space to run into in behind the defence. And Arsenal don't get that. Arsenal get minimal space in behind. That's why you see Aubameyang struggling most of the time. And we need players that are good technically on the ball. And there was reports, there was a quote going around on Twitter last couple of days that Serge Gnabry said if he was to leave Bayern and go to the Premier League, Arsenal would be favourites. Now that's someone that we should definitely be looking to be trying to sign if he's available. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Could play on the left, could play on the right, could play through the middle, and still young. So if we are to sell Pepe, I think I'll be trying to get Gnabry back for unfinished business.
Give me your 2 cents on that one, Sam.
Yeah, 100%. And then you get the added bonus of he's homegrown as well. So
True.
checks another box. The unfinished business is very adept way of describing it. I think that obviously his time at Bayern Munich he's thrived there, but I feel that he's not in their long term thinking. I think that he would be offered a contract by now, because ultimately, if he has got that year left on his contract, we can approach him in the January window, potentially get him in on a Bosman, and if we're able to secure that contract, try and negotiate him in early for peanuts, basically. So for me, it'd be an absolute no-brainer. He'd sort a left wing out. It'd also give Martinelli that time to really embrace the left wing as a rotation. And ultimately, I've been saying in our group chats, I'm fed up of us buying first teamers then backups. We need to buy first teamers across the board, and whoever is performing in training gets that slot on a Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They get the slot, and it's down to the other guy to win the jersey back. So for me, I think that we need a squad of 22 first team starters, and it's down to them to essentially win their squad, win their space, and it also gives Arteta flexibility to bring players in for the specific games for specific needs.
Tomorrow, Ryan, cup match, Wimbledon. The Arteta 11, as we started at the beginning, been playing 2 matches, had some success. They probably could use some more time together, but is this seems like a no-brainer with Tottenham coming up on the weekend. This is where you're going to make some rotations. Who do you look for on the pitch tomorrow?
Do you want me to name an 11?
Sure.
Or,
Why not?
I'd go Leno, Cedric, Chambers, Mari, Tavares, Sambi, Maitland-Niles, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, or maybe not Smith Rowe too. That's a tough one. Who'd you play in the number 10? There isn't many options there, is there? Really?
Patino.
Might you see Charlie Patino?
No, I wouldn't.
Too soon?
I think too soon for me. You got Balogun to play up front as well. And I would persist with Pepe on the right tomorrow night just to get some confidence in him. Probably potentially play 4-4-2 with Lacazette up front as well, or Eddie. So I think they're the sort of players you'll see tomorrow night, and our normal first 11 will be ready for Sunday.
All right, is rest, but also is there anybody in that second 11, Sam, who really needs the time? Has something to show in this match, in your opinion?
Essentially, all of them. All of them playing for the futures, aren't they? Really. I think if you're going to put youngsters in, you can possibly point to the midfield in Akinzola and Oli Inca. Maybe Oli Inca in as a number 10 or put him in as a third centre midfielder. Same with Akinzola. I agree with Ryan with Patino. I think everybody's hyping him up too much, and I think people need to curb that enthusiasm a little bit. I know we all want to see him thrive and be in and around the first team, but if you put too much pressure on, we saw what happened with Wilshere. Teams won't care about his talent. They'll just be out to break him essentially. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what 11 comes out. But ultimately, I think we've got more than enough in our second string. Well, I'll say this and I'll touch wood. We've got more than enough to see off Wimbledon, but it'll be interesting to see who comes out.
Right, and Ryan Sam mentioned a particular name, Jack Wilshere, who we've talked about in the past. Appears that he's coming back to Arsenal to train, to get in condition. He's looking for his next spot in his career. Obviously, raised a lot of eyebrows, got a lot of people excited. Hey, might he be signed? Mikel Arteta seemed to throw cold water on that pretty quickly, but what could he offer this Arsenal club, any benefit, directly or indirectly?
Well, I think Arteta purely said that to lower expectations, because if Wilshere comes in, doesn't perform, he was only training. But if he comes in and he outperforms our starting midfielders, you kind of have to give him a contract. Because if he's better than what we have, and he's free, and he's homegrown, he knows the club, he has the club's values, he knows Mikel, shared a dressing room with him, I think it's a no-brainer. I think a pay-as-you-play contract for a year or 6 months or wherever it is, get him in. It can't be worse than a fifth choice or fourth choice. Let Sambi grow into the role. It stops El Neni playing, and he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, right? He's going to want to prove everyone wrong. So I just don't see there being any negatives here on us potentially signing him. Obviously, it's up to the manager. So it's nice to see that we're willing to help him out, though. It's nice to see.
Could this, Sam, phrase we were using earlier in this pod, be another unfinished business type of player?
Potentially. It's been well documented that a deal was on the table when Wenger was here, but swiftly withdrawn when Emery was in place because he wasn't a part of the plans. So, yeah, I think that he would have unfinished business here. It's a case of if he can get himself back up to standard, Um, God, he's got more ability than somebody like El Neni. Given El Neni's only got coming up to 6 months left on his contract anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. And as Ryan said, if you put him in as a pay as you play player, if he gets injured, you're not paying anything, but you have the bonus of him being in and around the squad, in and around the youngsters, as we spoke about many a times in previous windows. Arsenal haven't got any clubmen really at the club. If you
Mhm.
bring Wilshere back, you're bringing that clubman in. You're bringing that mentality of this is Arsenal, do better in, and you really get him involved with the youngsters, telling the youngsters, say, if you break through, this is what happens. Obviously, we've got Mertesacker to do that with the academy, anyways. But another voice that is actually dealing with youngsters, because Wilshere is actually not is has actually got his own academy anyway. So
Mhm.
it's a case of another voice in that young dressing room and through the ranks to bring them, galvanize them, inspire them to do better to get into this first team. So, as Ryan said, for me, it's a win-win.
Who you said El Neni, Ryan? Who? Let's say Wilshire impresses. Who would be looking over his shoulder the most from the current midfield, in your opinion?
So you probably shouldn't have asked me because I'm superior, super biased towards Jack Wilshere. He was my favourite player for a very long time. So I think he slots in next to Partey personally. So probably shouldn't have asked me that.
Okay, Sam, you get the final word on this one. Who should be looking over his shoulder if we see if Jack Wilshere finds the fountain of, or his damaged feet find the fountain of youth?
See, I would, if we're going to be moving forward, I would say Sambi, but we know Sambi would be the player to be the rotation, and given Edu's comments, he is the rotational player. If we're looking at it realistically, I would probably say El Neni's the one that's going to be looking over the shoulder in terms of squad space, but I would also have half an eye on Granit Xhaka. If he fucks up like he has been, then Wilshere comes in over him. And because Arteta would have that trust in Wilshere, it could be diminished trust in Xhaka, and Xhaka um, potentially departs in January. And for some reason, I've just got a sneaky suspicion that he will depart in January, anyways. But yeah, I'd say Shaka's probably the one if you're going for first 11.
All right, Ryan, first crack at this. North London Derby's coming up. Tottenham won their first three matches. They were top of the league, and then they've hit a wall, to put it politely. They and Arsenal really kind of reversed form the last two. I mean, obviously, we'd like to see Arsenal score more goals, but Arsenal hasn't given up any goals, and suddenly Tottenham is giving them up all over the place. How should Arsenal approach this match against a suddenly wobbly Spurs club?
They need to put their foot on their neck from kickoff. Just go at them, scare them off. First 5 minutes, clamp them, smack them one. That's what we have to do. We have to hit them hard and early because then they whimper out. And I think that's how it will go. I think if we don't score first, I think they win. But if we score first, I think we'll win two or three.
Sam, how do you approach this match? If you're the manager, what are you going to do?
See, for me, I think that we've got to be more composed with them because if we go gun ho, I think that probably Son will get his customary long distance ridiculous shot against us, and then obviously there's Kane that's form's fallen off a cliff, and form goes out of the window in a derby, and he'll probably see him turn into the best striker in the bloody world again. But I think if we're composed and measured in the way that we go, I think that we do need to suffocate them and not allow them in our half. I think that we need to cut the passing avenues into their forward line. And if you win that midfield battle against Spurs, they're nullified because they will essentially try to lump it long. Kane will end up dropping back and forming a defensive midfielder. And you look at their defense, it's not great as it stands at the moment. So for me, you either get down the wide areas, you suffocate them, or you just essentially smother them and go full throttle through the middle. It's I think you need to take the first 10 minutes to see where Spurs are at with the game, but also just have it at an arm's length control.
Right. And, you know, give me a prediction then. Again, we've seen the reversal in fortune. Is it going to continue, in your opinion?
I am going to go back to a very famous scoreline of 5-2.
One we all remember fondly. Ryan, you're taking a different approach. You're taking the aggressive approach, the go for the throat approach, but it sounds like you're looking for the same final scoreline.
Yeah, I think it'll be 2-1 or 3-1. I just got a feeling that Aubameyang is finally just gonna explode back into Aubameyang we all know and love. Odegaard is just gonna rip it up. So I think last time we played them at the Emirates, if we had Aubameyang instead of Lacazette, that could have been 4 or 5. But we didn't, so I think it would be similar to that.
All right. Excuse me. Finally, do you make any changes to the 11 that Mikel's used the last 2 matches? 1-0 victories, but kind of bloodless. But just is this another match where you hope that next step comes? We'll start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, I go to 4-2-3-1, and I go with Smith Rowe on the left, Odegaard number 10, Saka on the right, Sambi, Partey in the middle. Back 5 chooses itself. Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel, Tierney, and Aubameyang up front. And I think that would be our strongest 11 for that game.
All right. Sam, do you have a similar or different, slightly different lineup in mind?
Absolutely bang on.
All right. So I'm going to throw in I'm going to say 2-0. I'm going to say that this run of clean sheets continues. I've been impressed. I mean, I know Son, and it seems like Kane is almost a given in these. I hate to say that. They score one between the two of them. There's 1 goal there, but I just have a feeling that, this is a new crew. This is a new back 5. And we really talk about a back 7. We talk about Partey in front of them, Sambi in front of them. They gel. And, for me, this is my 2 cents. I think it's kind of a fortuitous thing that Arteta doesn't have the opportunity to put Xhaka into this lineup. He's done the last match of his red card.
He will. He's back on Sunday. He's
available
again. So
I thought he had one more.
Him in the lineup.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yes. So that's my one hesitant moment. It's like, because that's just looking for trouble in my opinion. So
yeah, his last game of suspension is tomorrow night.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us here on the pod again with good news this time, and we hope to come back next week with even better news. See Arsenal beat Tottenham and perhaps leap them in the table, pull even with them on points, but after the first 3 matches, I'm sure you're all tired of all your friends, if you have Spurs friends, giving you the business. Be nice to return the favor. Any final words from you 2 gentlemen? Anything we're looking for? Any surprises to keep an eye out for before the match? No.
I would love a 5-0 win tomorrow night. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep the confidence going.
All right. So on that optimistic note, we will bid all of you adieu until the next episode. For Sam, for Ryan, I'm Raphael. We bid you good night.
off, yeah.